Welcome to the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education meeting for Wednesday, April 24th, 2019. Has this meeting been properly noticed?
Yes, it has.
Would you please call the roll?
Harlan.
Here.
Evans.
Here.
Garner.
Here.
Herzog.
Here.
Olmsted.
Here.
Peschel.
Here.
Szilagyi.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We have a very special group tonight who will be leading us both in the Pledge of Allegiance and also in the Star-Spangled Banner. This is a group from Oshkosh North High School, which includes Andy Paczynski, Rachel Ruman, Corinne Latta, Coral Neubauer, Allie Sunleitner, Jessica Jorgensen, Andy Muller, and John Dorschner. So we'll have them come in and join us, lead us in the pledge and in the Star-Spangled Banner. You can come on, keep coming.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
I have certificates for you. It's always very special to have students at our school board meetings because the reason we exist is for students. And so it reminds us why we're here, and it also gives us an opportunity to celebrate your accomplishments. So thank you so much for joining us tonight in that wonderful rendition. Andy Paczynski. Thank you so much. Rachel Ruman. Thank you. Thank you. Allie Sunlighter. And Jessica Jorgensen. There were a couple of last-minute substitutions from the list we started with at the beginning of the day, and so Andy and John will be getting their certificates at a later date. John Dorschner, you did a great job along with the rest of the group here, and we're delighted you came. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is always a very special night and one that brings a lot of positive feedback because we get to honor a very special group of people, a group of individuals who have been recognized by their peers and selected as Employees of the Year for the school district. This is a wonderful honor, and we are so pleased that many of you were able to join us at the reception preceding our board meeting, and many of you made the trek across the driveway from Perry Tiffler to be here tonight, so we can recognize you doubly. So with that, I will turn the microphone over to our Deputy Superintendent, Dr. David Gunlock.
Thank you very much. I am pleased to be here with you today. We're doing a repeat performance of the ceremony we had just across the parking lot, as Dr. Herzog indicated. I'm going to be announcing the various employees of the year that we have as the Oshkosh Area School District. These individuals were nominated by their peers, and they were evaluated by a committee that selected them for these awards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite each recipient up. I'm going to have them sit right here as I say some very nice things about them, and then Dr. Herzog will present them with a certificate after we're completed. So without further ado, I would invite Alyssa Rumlow, first grade teacher at Jefferson Elementary, to come forward as our 2019 OASD Employee of the Year. Have a seat, Alyssa. Alyssa is an enthusiastic, reflective learner who diligently implements best practices and is truly committed to the success of all students. She shares her love of learning not only with her first grade students, but also with educators within the district and the community. Alyssa is extremely involved in Jefferson's PBIS efforts and has attended, participated, and led countless meetings and trainings in order to move Jefferson to the next level. She has also been an instrumental participant on Jefferson's RTI committee to help streamline processes to help meet the needs of all learners. For the past 2 years, Jefferson has been the recipient of the Title I School of Recognition Award, and the work being done at Jefferson by all staff, including Alyssa, is a testament to just how well things are going. Alyssa is actively involved in the school, district, and community as a leader, volunteer, and participant. She has been a mentor as a cooperating teacher for UW-Oshkosh clinicians for the past 5 years, attends the Love and Logic community trainings, trained with Growing Oshkosh to incorporate school gardens, participated in the Family Engagement Team pilot with UW-Madison, partnered with the Oshkosh Public Library Sky Hero program to promote literacy in homes, advocated for area businesses in the school through Junior Achievement, and is a member of the Fox Valley Reading Council and Fit Oshkosh. It's a tremendous list of accomplishments. Alyssa is responsive to the needs of students and staff and willingly assists others when asked, and she volunteers to help whenever she sees a need. She is not a passive supporter, but is a roll up your sleeves and work hard to accomplish the goal kind of individual, always going the extra mile in all she undertakes. Alyssa is most deserving of this award, and she is a service leader who truly keeps students at the heart of her learning and teaching. She is truly an admirable educator. On behalf of the entire Oshkosh Area School District, please join me in recognizing and congratulating Alyssa, a 2019 Elementary Employee of the Year. Photo op. The next 2019 OASD Employee of the Year is Julian Hale, an EBD teacher at Washington Elementary School. Julian works with our most vulnerable population of students, all of whom have special needs related to academics, which are magnified due to the complexities presented by mental health issues, as well as acute and pervasive trauma. She is tireless in her work. She is at school early, she's among the last to leave, and she works under some of the most challenging circumstances any educator can face. But what tells you everything you need to know about Julian is this: at the end of the school's most difficult days, she will say, "We did good work today. It makes a difference. Remember that. We are lucky to be here." Julian defies expectations to show sincere love to kids who often ask for love in the most unlovable ways. She is an advocate for her students and is often making phone calls late into the evening to find resources that will allow families to focus their thoughts on education. She packs backpacks with meals for families. She works to find beds for children who are sleeping on floors or doubled up. She sits with parents to help them fill out paperwork to gain access to county and state resources, and so much more. She is a tenacious advocate for students and will not stop when she knows there is a need to be filled. When kids are at their most challenging, Julian has said, "We don't quit on kids," and she means it with every fiber of her being. Julian never tires of finding new and creative ways to support students both behaviorally and academically. Julian has high expectations for her students and provides the support necessary for them to succeed. She is aware she works with students who face a variety of challenges, but she refuses to accept anything less than their best and routinely holds them accountable because she truly believes they can do it. And when her students rise to meet her expectations, you will find her dancing, laughing, and celebrating with them. Julian is also an incredible asset to Washington Elementary School teachers. She seeks out collaboration with fellow teachers, can frequently be found in her office brainstorming and discussing how they can better support students, getting a needed dose of encouragement, or sometimes just having a good laugh. Washington staff trusts her and respects her in a way that has created authentic and genuine partnerships. The school cannot imagine this work without her. On behalf of the entire Oshkosh Area School District, please join me in recognizing and congratulating Julian, a 2019 Elementary Employee of the Year. The next 2019 OASD Employee of the Year is Cheryl Pagel, Program Support Teacher at Oshkosh North High School. There she is. Cheryl goes above and beyond for students and staff. She is a breath of fresh air. Her positive, upbeat attitude is contagious. Additionally, she can often be heard saying, "I live to serve," and she certainly lives up to this motto every day. She is a dedicated employee with a heart of gold who approaches life with honesty and integrity. Cheryl is an integral part of the special education department at Oshkosh North. She manages to keep the mood light and reassures people of change when it feels overwhelming. Another strength of Cheryl's is her ability to approach tough situations with kindness and honesty. When it comes to facilitating and assisting with individualized education program meetings, she makes sure everything is covered and is always interested in knowing more about the students and their families. She has great suggestions and is able to provide information based on her experience and knowledge. Yet another thing Cheryl does that often goes unnoticed is her one-on-one work with students who have special circumstances in order to get them caught up on credits when they have exhausted so many of their options. Cheryl is always willing to lend an ear when needed. She has a calming, understanding way about her and tries to provide reason to things. Finding humor in situations is one of the amazing attributes Cheryl possesses, sharing many laughs, especially when she has shared stories from her varied and interesting life experiences. Those sound interesting. Cheryl Pagel is an invaluable employee who goes above and beyond her job description. She makes Oshkosh North High School a better place and certainly makes those around her better simply by knowing her. Cheryl is a natural choice for the district's Employee of the Year Award. On behalf of the entire Oshkosh Area School District, please join me in recognizing and congratulating Cheryl, a 2019 Secondary Employee of the Year. Congratulations. The next 2019 OASD Employee of the Year is Paul Stelflug, Social Studies Teacher at Oshkosh West High School. Paul had another commitment, but we're going to read about Paul anyways. So, Paul's service to his students, his colleagues, and his profession is unparalleled. He is an exceptional classroom teacher, teaching both AP European History and AP Government and Politics. In fact, he has developed a curriculum for AP Government and Politics that has made it one of the most popular classes in the school. Students sign up for it in droves for this year-long class, even though they are only required to take a semester of government in order to graduate. One of the most successful things Paul does in his class is to have students compete in the We the People competition. This past year, Oshkosh West students took third place in the state in this national competition. Additionally, Paul's service to his students is also exemplary as he gives up many of his lunch hours for review sessions and for working one-on-one with students. Paul has also done an extraordinary job of leading the Social Studies Department at Oshkosh West and has brought a phenomenal level of commitment to the program. Through his professionalism and leadership, he has instilled a work ethic in the department that is second to none. This has been most evident with the implementation of the document-based question that each social studies class administers as part of a semester common assessment. Finally, Paul has been a leader in the field of social studies throughout the state. He has served as a fellow for the Center for American Constitution an organization based out of UW-Madison that is a national leader in the study of the writing and ratification of the United States Constitution. He has also served as a teacher and mentor for a number of We the People seminars in order to increase interest in the program throughout the state and beyond. In addition, he has attended a number of summer seminars for the Gilder Lehrman Institute of American History, and Paul is extremely well-read and is highly regarded by many teachers and professors throughout the state of Wisconsin. On behalf of the entire Oshkosh Area School District, please join me in recognizing and congratulating Paul, a 2019 Secondary Employee of the Year. The next 2019 OASD Employee of the Year and this year's Administrator of the Year is Lisa McLaughlin, Principal at South Park Middle School. Lisa works to build relationships with staff by getting to know each as a person. She honors differences of opinion respectfully and ensures that all points of view are heard. Lisa is grounded in moving South Park forward with district initiatives. She has made literacy at South Park a priority, including implementing a building-wide culture of literacy and spearheading staff read posters which hang outside each staff member's door. She is very involved in planning collaborations which focus on best practices in education. To plan these collaborations, Lisa works closely with all three of the school's building action teams: community involvement, PBIS and behavior, and technology. Lisa allows staff to become leaders in the building, and she is confident in the direction the team members take. Lisa is also dedicated to the students of South Park Middle School. She is active in the South Park community and regularly attends events, including PTO activities, family nights, STEM nights, and so much more. She genuinely cares about the students and holds them accountable, while at the same time continuing to work with parents and teachers to meet the needs of all students. Lisa recognizes staff accomplishments and creates a positive workplace environment, awarding Panther Paws with a special note attached. She also mails birthday cards to the staff and encourages staff to share good things at each collaboration. She even provides small PBIS prizes for the staff. Additionally, she is part of the staff social committee and has invited staff to special events such as the annual holiday party hosted other events at her home. Lisa continues to grow as a professional by participating in book studies and sharing professional articles with staff. She challenges South Park staff and has a strong understanding of standards-based grading, Charlotte Danielson, and the best practices in education. Lisa embraces new opportunities and is supportive of various ways to educate learners. Lisa McLaughlin is a dedicated professional who has brought value to the Oshkosh Area School District for many years. On behalf of the entire Oshkosh Area School District, please join me in recognizing and congratulating Lisa, the 2019 Administrator of the Year. The next 2019 OASD Employee of the Year and this year's first-year Teacher of the Year is Bonnie Smith. Bonnie is a cross-categorical teacher at Washington. Bonnie Smith is a first-year cross-categorical teacher at Washington Elementary, where she works with students in kindergarten through 5th grade. In her short time at Washington, Bonnie has excelled in her professional obligations, her service to the school community, and has gone above and beyond to connect with her families. As a special education teacher, Bonnie understands the critical role relationships play in teaching and learning. As a brand new teacher, Bonnie intuitively made time to connect in person with each of her students' families. In those one-on-one meetings, she sought to learn about her students through their parents' eyes. She learned about their strengths and challenges, she learned about their interests, and she learned about what their families hoped and dreamed for them, all of which she uses each day as she serves her students. To maintain these connections, Bonnie can often be seen walking students out to the car at pickup so she can touch base with parents and share celebrations or have courageous conversations about the day. In her work with students, she is tireless in supporting them and helping them grow. She has incredibly high expectations for her students and provides the support necessary for them to rise to the occasion. Bonnie is aware that she works with students who face a variety of challenges, but she refuses to accept anything less than their best and routinely holds them accountable. As a first-year educator, Bonnie's maturity and intuition are on par with what we have come to expect from some of our most valued and veteran educators. Her ability to observe students, infer their needs, and make accommodations on the fly is a skill that many educators take years to master. In addition to her classroom work, Bonnie has completely revitalized Washington Student Council. She took it upon herself to reorganize the Student Council and reignite excitement and enthusiasm for both students and staff. In her efforts, she has helped to make the Student Council a diverse and accepting student organization that brings together children with a range of perspectives and gifts. Everything about Bonnie emulates the skills and maturity of an exemplary veteran educator, and the Washington community is blessed to watch her continue to grow. On behalf of the entire Oshkosh Area School District, please join me in recognizing and congratulating Bonnie, the 2019 First Year Teacher of the Year. Congratulations. The next 2019 OASD Employee of the Year is Audrey Spann, Bauer, Paraprofessional at Oshkosh North High School. Audrey is a learning disability resource teacher, and her dedication to her students is amazing to watch. While she is strict with high standards and expectations, she also has a very warm, nurturing personality that provides students with an adult that they are able to feel safe with, an adult they trust, and an adult who they feel comfortable bringing their problems to. She works with some of the most difficult children in the high school, and she never gives up on them. She continuously praises their successes, supports them through their failures, and bolsters their confidence so they feel they have a chance. She doesn't accept failure as an option, and she pushes kids to do their very best every single day. Audrey also has a fantastic relationship with others in the public. Her colleagues around the building enjoy her positive spirit, her bubbly personality, and her energetic smiles. She is encouraging, a great listener, and a friend to many people at Oshkosh North. Her positive attitude also helps to improve the building's morale, and she is a positive steward of North's reputation to the public. A lifetime resident of Oshkosh, she knows many people, and she is quick to share all the positive things that North and the district are doing. Audrey's years of service are also worth noting. She has worked in her current position for almost 10 years. Her job is long and tiring with few breaks and is mentally draining to say the least. However, she loves what she does. She loves the connection she makes with students and the knowledge that her hard work is making a difference. Last but certainly not least, Audrey has an incredible work ethic. In her role, she has to help each of her students with all the classes in the school. She has to be knowledgeable on all core subjects and electives in order to be able to help, and that is something she excels at. On behalf of the entire Oshkosh Area School District, please join me in recognizing and congratulating Audrey, a 2019 Support Staff Employee of the Year. The next 2019 OASD Employee of the Year is Dan Kemal, Building Custodian 2 at Washington Elementary School. Dan's dedication to the staff, students, and grounds of Washington are second to none. He cares for Washington like a home, and the staff and students are his family. Midway through this school year, Washington received a student who had a very traumatic background and who had not only moved schools, but homes as well. In order for the transition to go smoothly for this student, it was decided to give him as many support people as possible. On the student's first day, the school's principal sat down to eat lunch with him in the lunchroom to help him understand the expectations and build friendships. They weren't sitting long before Dan joined them. Soon Dan was leading the conversation and helping the second grader feel more comfortable in his surroundings. While Dan spent the lunch period chatting with the student, trays piled up and crumbs weren't being quickly swept. Dan was well aware that he would have more work to do when lunch was over, but his priority was to make time to make the little boy feel safe at his new school. That student spent the next several weeks calling out a cheerful, "Hi, Mr. Dan," every time he saw Dan. Dan is not only Washington's custodian, he is part of the school community. The connections that he has built with the students is visible in the hallways. When he walks through the building, several "Hey, Mr. Dans" can be heard. Knowing that many students at Washington do not have a positive male role model in their life, Dan works to fill that void in their hearts every single day. The positive bonds he has built with kids have given students pride and ownership of their building, leaving it cleaner. In fact, several fifth grade students spent time after lunch helping Dan clean tables, return the tables to their storage space, and clean up the floor. The students thrive on that time that they get to spend helping Mr. Dan. In addition to the support he provides to students, Dan is always more than willing to help any staff member do anything. His willingness to go above and beyond has been noticed by the entire school community. In fact, the staff at Washington know how lucky it is that Dan calls their school home. On behalf of the entire Oshkosh Area School District, please join me in recognizing and congratulating Dan, a 2019 Support Staff Employee of the Year. Congratulations. And that concludes our Employee of the Year honors.
If we can have one more round of applause for all of those who were honored this evening, so that we can thank you and collectively as a group. Let's do that. And you're all welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting, but if you have other things you'd like to fill out your evening with, we certainly understand. So thank you very much for all your contributions, and thank you for all of the those supporting those who have won awards. That means a lot that you're here with us tonight. So thank you all for coming and being so supportive of these honorees. We really appreciate your presence, as they do as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you make one announcement about what we do with their images for the next year?
Sure.
Or too late?
No, it's too late, yeah, sorry. We can have an announcement at the end of the meeting.
Okay. I think that's important.
I agree. Okay, moving on then to board and administrative reports. The board president report, that's a tough act to follow, and we appreciate Dr. Gunlock heading up the presentation remarks tonight. The board, as I indicated last time, has been very busy. Monday night we had our annual reorganization meeting, which is required by state law, and at that time we welcomed one new board member to the table, and that's Liz Szilagyi, so we congratulate her on joining the board. She and Steph Carlin both were successful in the April election, so we recognize Steph Carlin for her re-election to the board, so congratulations, Stephanie. We also appointed committees that evening, committee representation, and we also elected our officers. So serving as the clerk of the board for one more year at least is Mr. James Evans, and our new treasurer of the board is Stephanie Carlin. Our vice president, who will be serving a second term, is Kelly Olmsted, and I have to say I'm very humbled and privileged to serve one more year as your board president. It's truly an honor and a privilege to be at this table and to be among this group of dedicated board members who serve the students, families, and our community so well. So those are the things we accomplished on Monday night. We also engaged in professional development as a board in a document called Key Work of School Boards, which is a publication from the National School Board Association. We will continue with that professional development and growth activity tomorrow evening, so that will mark our third open meeting of this board in this week. So it's, as I said, it's been a busy week. As I've been walking my dog multiple times a day, I'm reminded of the wonder of spring and things that pop out of the gardens as we walk along. And I was thinking about that in terms of going back to the very beginning of this school year when all the staff gathered together in the Alberta Kimball Auditorium and we talked about celebrations. And so many of us do celebrate spring because we've been waiting for it for a long time. But we also celebrate so many positive things in this second semester with our school families, with the activities that go on in every classroom every day and the successes that our students achieve and the hard work that our staff, whether they're teachers or administrators, support staff, dedicate to the students and families of this district. The spring just seems like the start of so many positive things. It's North Prom this coming weekend. West is putting on its annual musical. We have 2 outstanding softball teams from our 2 high schools who competed last night at North High School to standing room only. We may have to consider more bleachers over there as that crowd continues to grow. It's the time of concerts. I recently attended the jazz concert at Webster Auditorium. I know Mr. Peschel was there as well, with these excellent jazz ensembles from our middle schools and our high schools. And as we look forward to the next approximately 8 to 10 weeks, I think that's about how much time we have left in this school year. I know that the 5 weeks of school. Oh.
Yeah, I'll be like, no, my kid's got this down. It's 5 weeks.
Well, we're going to pack a lot into that time frame. All of these sports teams or students put on the uniform of their school or representing the school and the district, and all those musical groups. There's state solo ensemble contest this weekend for our high schoolers and some of our middle schoolers at UW Oshkosh. So it's just such a wonderful time of year with things not only blossoming in people's gardens, but blossoming in our classrooms, our athletic fields, and our stages as our students share with their colleagues, their peers, and the community their many talents. And the dedicated members of PTOs who organize fundraisers and various activities, celebrations, and carnivals. So it's a great time of year to be in the school district, and I encourage people to visit their friendly neighborhood schools and lend support when you see the many exciting activities that are going on between now and the next 5 weeks or however many we have in the school year, and not to mention graduation, which is really the highlight. So lots of positive things going on in the school district. So with that, I will turn this over to our superintendent, Dr. Cartwright, for her report.
Thank you very much, Dr. Herzog. So we have a lot of wonderful news to share with you related to the activities of our students out of our schools and some of the things that our teachers are doing as well. We're going to go ahead and get started right away with 2 of our elementary schools recently participated in the One School, One Book program. Emmeline Cook Elementary School read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, while Washington Elementary School read Wish Tree. All families received a copy of the book and were encouraged to read together. Students had the opportunity to complete trivia questions for a chance to win great prizes. Next, we're going to move over to Roosevelt Elementary School, where they recently enjoyed a visit from the Opera for the Young. The performance featured Roosevelt 5th grade students playing the Stagley group of cats and dogs. It was a howling good time. Students in the MELT, which is the Middle Extended Learning Time After School program at Merrill Middle School, recently spent time giving back and getting to know residents of Arborview Manor. The students have been busy making handmade gifts for residents, a project that has become one of their favorite service learning and enrichment activities. As they worked on the projects, topics of discussion centered around compassion, empathy, the importance of community, and how it impacts their character as individuals. The project concluded with an inspiring and heartfelt visit to Auberview Manor, when the students got to deliver their flower pot projects to the residents and visit with them. Congratulations to the students at Oshkosh West High School. These art students received awards at the Art and the Garden Art Show. The show featured artwork from local artists as well as students from Oshkosh West, Oshkosh North, Lourdes, and Valley Christian. Awards were voted on by the public. Thank you to all that came out to support the arts and to support our children. Smith Elementary School students took a break from a recent snow and cold by grabbing their beach towels and tropical clothes to celebrate meeting their monthly reading goals. Congratulations. Recently, over 600 people attended the annual Carl Traeger Elementary School Night Bingo Night. Families played bingo and other games for the opportunity to win fabulous baskets. The school also had two special helpers in attendance, Miss Wood Violet and Miss Oshkosh Outstanding Teen. Oshkosh North and Oshkosh West Spanish teacher Angela Rodriguez was recently awarded the CAPP Adjunct of the Year Award. Adjuncts are nominated by their university liaisons for academic performance expertise, professional interaction with liaison and students, willingness to give their time to impact CAPP students, alignment of curriculum, and expertise in delivering college-level materials. Congratulations to Angela. Many students at Perry Tipler and Alps recently participated in a screen-free week. Basically, what that means is they weren't allowed to have any electronics. They weren't allowed to have any screens, including televisions, phones, gaming devices, all of except for, of course, homework and schoolwork. As an incentive for students to participate in the screen-free pledge, they were given tickets and a chance to win a basket of prizes valued at over $50. Congratulations to Luis Francesca for winning the basket. On Luis's pledge card, he wrote that instead of spending time with screens, he read a book, practiced for his orchestra concert, spent more time with his family, went outside, got to bed earlier in order to do better at school, and reviewed his schoolwork to practice for the state testing. Congratulations to Luis. Shapiro STEM Academy staff recently partnered with their student council members to host a fun-filled family night. Students and families had the opportunity to play games, learn about summer opportunities, and connect with other families over a bite to eat. Community 2 students at Oshkosh North High School recently presented their semester of service projects and a gallery walk with the mid-morning Kiwanis. Projects include teen safe driving, human trafficking, energy conservation, and mental health awareness. The students have partnered with a need within the community and are working collaboratively with their partner organization in order to make a meaningful impact. Congratulations to the hardworking students in the Oshkosh West Wild Kayak Band, Concert Band, Varsity Band, and Wind Ensemble. Wow, 4 bands. All 4 of the West bands recently performed at the Carroll University for judges in the most difficult class of music. Oshkosh West is the only school in the state to send 4 bands to contest in the most difficult class and return with 3 of the highest ratings possible. Excellent work to the West High School band students. We're continuing to highlight a few of our teachers and sharing their reflections on why they teach. The individuals on the screen remind us of how caring our teachers are. We are so grateful for these individuals and for all of our teachers across the entire district. As superintendent, I am committed to being present and engaged in our schools and throughout Oshkosh. On the screen, you'll see just a few examples of where I've been spending my time for the past 2 weeks. Not as busy as normal, however, I was at a conference, so please remember that. And so with that, at this point in time, if it's okay with you, Dr. Herzog, I would like to go ahead and invite Katie Neiman up to talk a little bit about our written report for the photography request for proposal.
Right, and that is on our agenda as a supplemental report, so we're staying with our written plan here.
Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
Hi. So as Vicki mentioned, wanted to take the opportunity to share this for an informational standpoint, just because this RFP and the end product is something that touches all of our schools and quite frankly, most of our families, those that, obviously purchase school pictures and enjoy those. This is all part of that process. So the district's current contract expires at the end of the year. So as in line with all large projects, the district embarked on an RFP process to evaluate the vendors that are out there. To do that, or actually before we started that, what we did, or what I started with, was surveying all of our principals to get an understanding of their current satisfaction, but then also what are they looking for in their photography service? Is there any additional resources or trends that we could be taking advantage of? So through that survey, the RFP was developed. Specifically, some of the criteria were highlighted based off of, again, what we're hearing from our principals as most important. And then through that, we started the RFP process. So it was developed and sent out, and we organized a RFP Review Committee, which was comprised of principals from all levels, secretaries, as well as our high school yearbook staff advisors. So everybody that kind of has a experience and can provide great input into the vendor of choice. In sending out the RFP, we had 7 vendors choose to participate. Of those, we narrowed down to 4 vendors that had really great proposals, and we wanted to see them come in to demonstrate to our committee. So 4 of them listed in the report came in to demonstrate. Quite frankly, it was very tough for our committee. There's a lot of great vendors and services offered, and it really came down to identifying sort of, again, what were the key criteria that our schools and our committee especially were looking for. And through that, some of the things that came to light, especially in the recommendation that they're making and moving and switching to network photography, is really focused on providing exceptional customer service as well as quality. Those kind of were the things that we hear often from our schools, as far as we want to make sure that picture days go smoothly for our schools and our families, and we want to make sure that our families are pleased with the product that they get. Additionally, when considering all of the bids, it was important to keep price in mind. All of the vendors that we brought in had pretty competitive pricing, and it was important in going with, even in the recommended vendor, that they were in line with the current pricing that we get. In addition to the presentations, I also conducted numerous reference checks, both in the references that the vendors provided, but then also doing an additional research just based off of districts that I knew some of the vendors were working with. So going beyond their preferred reference or listed references to get a true understanding of the services that they're providing. So after all of that, our committee met over the course of 3 different times. The final meeting where they were able to review all of the reference check feedback, reflect on the vendor demonstrations, reflect on the proposal, and come to a majority vote. That majority vote is to recommend switching to network photography for a 1-year trial contract. And this will allow us to experience the benefits that network has expressed offering and to ensure that it's a good fit for our school.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments about?
I just have a question out of curiosity. Number 4 says services. Committee members were impressed with the number of large event offerings, candid photos, as well as the quality of these candid photos. What type of events are they doing then?
Well, one of the things that we identified in the RFP process was that our vendors are willing to come into our schools and take pretty great photos of our kids in action to use for yearbooks or to use on social media, something that, I can't always be in every school. But one of the things that Network showcased was those candid photos, and it truly captured the essence of student learning versus just students sitting at a desk or something happening. So it was a really personable demonstration that they offered that the committee was interested in experiencing themselves and hopefully being able to bring into their own yearbooks and photo collections and photo galleries.
Then I have to ask, because I was on the yearbook staff, that's not encroaching on the yearbook photographer's job to get candidates?
I should say specifically our elementary and middle. We're
Okay.
very interested in that. Those that don't necessarily have the students that have the time to be taking those pictures is where that came into.
Any other comments or questions, Mr. Peschel?
So typically, when RFPs are brought to us, we kind of get to see like the comparison of what their amounts came in at. And so I didn't see that in here. Is that correct?
Correct. The committee was actually responsible for making the recommendation. This wasn't for board approval because it doesn't require a monetary amount.
Okay.
But again, all of the four that we narrowed it down to were very competitive, and by that I mean within $1 of package pricing.
Okay.
And again, the pricing is what our families will be experiencing, not
Sure.
something the district's
Right,
gonna
that's
be on.
not, yeah, it's not out of our budget.
Correct.
Sure.
Yeah.
Got it.
That's why there's no
That
money on
makes
there.
sense.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Mrs. Neiman. I know we'll be voting on this, or have the opportunity to vote on this later this evening. I think we have that.
No.
This was
Not tonight.
information.
Not information only. All right, thank you. I got confused there for a moment. Listening session report from April 10th. Do we have a written report on that, or who was following up on that?
I can give a synopsis of the report. Typically, I would be taking the notes, but in this particular meeting, I was standing in for Dr. Cartwright at the very beginning, so Dr. Jones took the notes. He's not available this evening, so sort of a short synopsis. We had several people come, and a student, one of our faculty members, and a university professor came, and they were talking about a recent article in the school newspaper, and the discussion was focused on some policy and administrative guidelines clarifications, and the board has been working on those policies since that time. So that's sort of a synopsis of the discussion that occurred in listening session with those individuals.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr.
welcome.
Miller. Okay. Are there any committee chair reports at this time?
You got a couple. I got one. You got one? You got one?
Let's start on that and work our way
Let's
down.
start. Mr. Peschel, I think you're up.
Sure. Sure, my committee report is related to the policy and governance meeting that took place on April 18th, last Thursday. This, we discussed, we had really kind of two items on the agenda. They related to policy 5722, school-sponsored publications and productions, and academic guideline 5722, which also relates to school-sponsored publications and productions. This agenda item arose to be on that agenda for that committee from the listening session that took place. So we had I would say a robust discussion with staff members, advisors to the Oshkosh West Index and the Oshkosh North Star, as well as administrators and several board members, as well as Dr. Cartwright present for the conversation. We also had a representative from Neola, which is an organization that provides us guidance on policies that we utilize in creating policy for the school district. So what essentially took place in this meeting was a long discussion about the direction of which our policy could go towards. And we did not come to any consensus at that point. But I think what we did basically indicate was that our policy stands as is until it's changed, and that the academic guideline that's there has to follow the policy that's written in the record. This is also something that we indicated that we will take our time in discussing and shaping this policy, and getting input from multiple sources, from the community and students, administration, and so on. So we do plan to discuss this again at our next meeting, which is May 2nd, I believe?
No.
21st? 21st. Sorry. May 21st, where we'll also be discussing potentially some more policy updates, as well as administrator compensation and the wellness policy. Did I miss anything? All right.
That's good.
Thank you, Mr. Peschel. Moving on then to Mrs. Olmsted.
Sure. I am giving an update from our Facility and Finance Committee minutes. The first thing, we met on April 18th at 8:30 in the morning, and the first thing we had was a written report from Mrs. Schnorr, a budget variance report. There was a difference of, there was a big chunk on there, and the reason is because there was a 1.4 million transfer made last year because of the post-employment benefits. And right now, that's under review, so the payment's not been made this year yet. So that's where that big difference was on that report. And then Ms. Conrad presented the CLC budget to the committee. The board had approved a substantial plan that had been brought forward 4 years ago. Currently, CLC has 8 sites. The committee was shown 2 scenarios. One with CLC grants, which included 12 sites, so they added some more on there, and then CLC without the grants, which would maintain just the current 8 sites. They had filled out 6 CLC grants written for next year, and I think, Julie, we're going to get those to the end of the summer, right? Middle of summer, we're going to find out about them?
More in June.
More in the June, right. Perfect, thank you. Under using the worst-case scenario of the 8 sites with no grants, 0 grants, each site would cost approximately $152,800. The total for all elementary sites would be $916,800. If grants were received for all 12 sites, CLC would be asking for a total of $725,770 out of Fund 80, which would serve 890 students with adding those other sites. Without the grants, we would stay at the 8 current sites, and we'd be asking for $860,250 out of Fund 80, which would serve 550 students. To keep the current programming, an additional $300,000 would be needed. So we've already got money budgeted into it, so these numbers are our big budget, but if we don't get the grants, it's a smaller number. We are only asking for $300,000 then, or they are. There was a concern with the committee that had been given a description of the inputs and outputs. However, there has been no data shared regarding impacts to the schools. It was noted that the CLCs are held accountable to a third-party evaluator, and that data can be shared at a future board workshop. The committee wants to see the data and the impact on student learning before agreeing to the funding. So they're going to be bringing forward in June or August a workshop all the data on those programs for us. And then the next thing we discussed was OEA post-employment changes. Mrs. Schnorr brought this topic back for additional discussion. This would be only for OEA. The proposal is to give each teacher $1,000 instead of the current tiered system every year in their program. It would be an additional cost of approximately $194,000 a year from the district. It was noted that last year we had 38 employees forfeited this benefit and left, and this year we'll be at 54 employees for leaving and forfeiting the money. Mrs. Schnorr feels with the number of forfeitures, that the additional cost would balance itself out. There's also the possibility of absorbing the additional cost in the year-end surplus that we have. There was a discussion regarding the value of the benefit if staff are leaving the district and willing to give it up. Every year, eligible staff receive a statement showing their HRA balance. Increasing this benefit from $1,000 from its tiers from 5 to 7 and then or 1 year, 5 years, and 10 years. So going to all $1,000 does 2 things. It makes it easier to manage this, and it also ends up building a nicer benefit for people who do stay for a longer length of time. There was a concern that with the shortage of the district for new hires, will this be enough to help with retention or new hires in our future? Could this money be used to fund positions that would get money closer to the students? And there was a discussion about possibly changing the vesting schedule to 8 to 10 years. If the vesting schedule were changed over time, the people leaving would help pay for the people who still get the $1,000. The committee would like more information on how other districts manage post-employment benefits, so it was noted that the salary and benefit information needs to be better also better communicated to the employees. So Mrs. Schnorr is bringing this back after she gets a little bit more information from other surrounding or size districts and surrounding districts on what they're doing with this also. And our next meeting is scheduled for May 23rd.
Thank you, Mrs. Olmsted. And I believe, Mr. Evans, you have a report as
Yes,
well?
I do. The Energy Committee met on Monday, April 15th, which was on tax day, so I hope everybody got their taxes in on time. The Energy Club at West talked about several things, and one thing I found was quite fascinating is there was discussion that the district has not found an efficient and economical way to separate food waste. And this is where I was surprised. The actual volume of food waste comes from cold lunch that students bring into the school versus a hot lunch, which I didn't even consider that. I thought cold lunch would be what everybody wants to eat. But they're hoping to develop a tri-fold brochure for the students to take home during the first week of school to educate families about food waste and only packing food that the students will eat. Sharing tables have been used in the past, but have proven to be more difficult at the elementary level. Personal audit. A suggestion was made to re-educate staff about personal appliances, because everybody has their own little coffee maker or fan or lamp or anything. And it was also suggested that they would add a classroom shutdown flyer to teachers at each school to basically try to unplug everything that's possible over the summer, and so you don't leave it plugged in. Facilities update. Jim Fox said the Oshkosh West High School Glass Project Phase 2 of 2 has begun. This portion of the project will concentrate on new low-E insulated glass windows in the common areas. The entire project decreases the amount of glass in the building by 30%. Reed Elementary School, we have a boiler replaced, and we are slowly replacing our fluorescent lights with LED lighting as they need replacing. A memo was sent to staff each year regarding heating and cooling sessions, how to maximize room temperature efficiency. The memo includes information about keeping doors closed to provide optimal heating in the room, not piling things onto the ventilator, and not turning the ventilator fan down to decrease the amount of sound. It's important to revisit these rules and policies on an ongoing basis in an effort to re-educate staff on the importance of air exchange. A 10-year energy anniversary. The committee is just about 10 years old, and when it first started, there were very few schools that had the Energy Star rating, and now over the past 10 years, almost every school has an Energy Star list. Washington Elementary started out 10 years ago at a 10, and they're in the mid-60s now, and you need to get to 70 or 75 to get the Green Star, so they're almost there. And the costs that we're saving by doing this is districts of similar size are spending about $120 per student on energy, and we're spending $83 per student. And then finally, on May 1st, an Arbor Day celebration will take place at Oakwood Elementary School, where they're going to be planting an oak tree to honor Dr. John Limburger's past service on the school board. That's going to be taking place at 10:15 on Wednesday, May 1st. They're already calling it the Limburger Oak. Our next meeting is June 17th at 8:30 in the morning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Evans. More things to celebrate, it sounds like. Very good. All right then, moving on. Are there any other committee reports? Okay, seeing no more reports, we'll move on to the non-agenda related public forum. There was one individual who signed up tonight. You would have 3 minutes, and we would ask that you state your name and address and the topic you wish to develop or to address. If you are acting as a spokesperson for a particular group of individuals, please indicate the group you represent and state clearly and concisely the matter of concern. And then we would limit your your presentation to 3 minutes, please.
Thank you,
Also,
Doc.
excuse me, also remember that the use of specific names of district personnel could lead to legal liability. In such instances, please pursue the district's formal complaint process by contacting the superintendent's office at 424-0160 to direct you to the appropriate administrator. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Herzog. My name is Ricky Pratt. I live at 215 Old Knapp Road. I just graduated from Oshkosh West High School, and I'm going to keep it pretty brief. It's in regards to policy 5722 regarding school-sponsored publications. If it does end up coming to the board, I just would like to strongly recommend that you hold discussion regarding the school-sponsored publications. And would recommend the administration follow recommendations on facilitating those publications by the Journalism Education Association. That would include respecting the advice of those advisors and editors, encouraging teachers to emphasize the importance of accuracy, and empower students to make decisions on content, and adopting new policy to allow the free trade of ideas flow through the schoolrooms without the need for prior review and restraint. So that's all I got today. So I'm going to keep it, like I said, I'm going to keep it pretty brief. I did hear from a board member about being in the Policy and Governance Committee. So if it does end up coming to your attention, I just would like to recommend that you guys would discuss that here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And just for clarification, the way the process works is policies, either new policies or proposed changes to policies, go through our Policy and Governance Committee, which is made up of 3 members of the board, although all board members may attend, and those meetings are publicly noticed. And then once the policy or the draft gets through the Policy and Governance Committee, it does come to the entire board to be voted on and discussed. And that any new policy or change to policy requires a 2/3 vote at the board, which is defined on a 7-member board as 5 votes are required. So that would be our process, just to clarify that for you. And I think I stayed within your 3 minutes, so we're good.
Am I not allowed to rebut?
You can comment, sure.
I
Normally,
just-
this is not a conversation, but I just want to clarify that for you.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to clarify, so policies can't be moved to be changed without going through the Policy and Governance Committee? Right.
That's correct.
That's correct? Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
And it was announced that the next Policy and Governance meeting is May 21st. Dr. Cartwright.
Clarification, if I may.
Sure,
Just
absolutely.
board members do have the ability during a publicly noticed board meeting, in the event that they would like for a policy to be reviewed by the policy committee, to bringing that forward for the committee to review. So I just want to make a clarification for that.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Okay, we have one person who signed up for an agenda-related public forum. Same rules apply. Come forward, state your name and address, the topic you wish to address. If you're acting as a spokesperson for a particular group, please indicate the group you represent. State clearly and concisely the matter of concern. Limit your comments, please, to 3 minutes, and remember that the use of specific names of district personnel could lead to legal liability. I don't think we're going to get into that. In such instances, we would pursue the district's formal complaint process by contacting the superintendent's office at 424-0160 to direct you to the appropriate administrator. And as I said, we had one person who signed up. I think your first name was pronounced Cami. I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name, so I'll let you share that.
I'll take it from there. Good evening. My name is Cami Zerker, and I'm a parent of 3 children in the Oshkosh Area School District. I reside at 168 Old Oregon Road here in Oshkosh, and I am not representing, but I am very active in our local school and currently serve as secretary of the Lakeside PTO. Earlier this week, I sent each of you a very lengthy letter regarding my position on the proposed changes for 2019-2020. I'm just here, calendar. I'm just here to kind of speak on the record. And at 3 minutes, I'm going to cut a bunch of stuff. So Lakeside, basically with its enormous boundary area, already has some of the longest routes and earliest pickup times in the district. This year, the first child is picked up at 6:20 for a school day that doesn't begin until 7:45. Here in Wisconsin, that means this student, from the first day of school through the first week of April, will wake up in darkness and climb aboard the bus before the sun climbs above the horizon. It means waiting for the bus, typically in the dark, often in frigid temperatures, before riding that bus for an hour. It means trying to eat breakfast before 6 a.m., knowing your next meal is 5 hours away, because Oakwood and Lakeside are the only 2 schools in our elementary school, or in our district, that don't offer breakfast. All of this is to say nothing about the fact that in order to get the 10 to 12 hours of recommended sleep for this age group, these students need to be not just in bed, but asleep beginning sometime between 5:15 and 7:15 every night. And I don't think I need to tell you how impossible this is for most families. Without that, we're creating even more sleep-deprived children with lower attendance and test scores, higher rates of tardiness, and behavioral issues. The district must start looking at ways to move toward later pickup times, not earlier, and stop expecting our youngest children to bear the brunt of our budget problems. I'm not the only parent who feels this way. I've spoken with many families at both Oakwood and Lakeside, and not one of them thinks this proposed proposed calendar is a good idea. And not one of them had any idea it was under consideration until I spoke with them. I'm hearing things like, is there any time that they would consider too early for picking up? Or it's like they asked everyone but us. And I have to agree, it kind of feels that way. From the outside, it seems that you're valuing the opinion of some students over the needs of other students, the opinion of the community over the opinion of parents. If tough choices must be made, it's imperative that you balance all the perspectives, not just those that fit the mold you've cast. Dr. Cartwright was kind enough to reach out to me yesterday, and among the reasons she provided for how the calendar committee ended up at this particular proposal was this. In the Fox Valley, apparently Oshkosh has some of the shortest days and among the longest school calendars. With these proposed changes were made in part to put our district more in line with some neighboring districts. And to that, I respectfully say, who cares what other districts are doing? I don't know what Appleton's budget looks like. I don't know the size of Nina's boundary areas or what Kimberly's bus routes look like. I don't even know, frankly, if they're looking out for their students' best interests. Perhaps other schools should be moving to be more in line with Oshkosh on this issue, not the other way around. Just like in high school, the popular choice isn't always the right choice. So again, who cares what other districts are doing? Do what's right for Oshkosh students, all of them, in our Oshkosh community with our unique Oshkoshian challenges. As playwright Diane Grant said, it's better to walk alone than with a crowd going the wrong direction. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Calendars are always challenging and present a number of challenges, and especially in a large district such as ours. And I know that Dr. Cartwright had reached out to you, and I think it might be appropriate for her to share with the public perhaps some of the things that she had shared with you. So,
if I may,
Dr. Cartwright.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Dr. Harris. I just want to provide some additional information. And again, please understand that these are things that are being explored at this time, and it is not a commitment. I need to make that very abundantly clear, because I don't want to say, oh, we're doing this, and not be able to deliver on that for you. So there are a few things specific to Lakeside that we are exploring at this point in time. Right now, the buses, when they get to Lakeside Elementary School, unload one at a time. That process takes approximately 10 to 12 minutes for students to be able to get off of the bus. Mm-hmm. Hence, when we originally reached out to Cabusin about this, that is why it was proposed originally for that school specifically to have that 5-minute earlier pickup time in order to be able to proceed with that. Today I did have a conversation with Ms. Ashton, which is the principal for Lakeside Elementary School, and we are in process on conversation, so I'll make that abundantly clear, in process on conversation. However, we are looking to be able to come up with a better way, or a different way, let me rephrase, a different way in which to dismiss off of the buses. If we are able to accomplish that, given initial conversations, and I will say initial conversations, we may not have to move up the 5-minute start time for Lakeside Elementary School. Again, I'm not committing to that. I just want to at least provide that information to you as something that we're currently working on. It is a moving target. The second thing I also want to express to you is I've already reached out to Ms. Schnorr in order, regardless of the decision tonight, but for our schools that do not have a breakfast program, so that would be the Oakwood Elementary School as well as Lakeside Elementary does not have a breakfast program at this point in time. What is happening there, the reason for that is because unfortunately there hasn't been enough interest by parents. And there was, the parents of Lakeside was surveyed even just 2 years ago. Typically we have to have about approximately 50 families that would be interested in having their children participate in the program in order for it to fund the program at minimum state. We only had an affirmative of approximately 25 families that said that they would even be interested in that. We are, though, regardless of what the results were 2 years ago, we are going to resurvey our parents at both sites in order to attune to our parents to determine whether or not they would be interested in the breakfast program. And I think that's important to note because I agree, not eating for 4 hours, from the time you get on the bus until lunch is an extended period of time. So we're really hoping that parents will be interested in this opportunity that we're exploring to hopefully be able to provide to them, provided, again, it's contingent upon then the level of interest and the commitment, hopefully, that we can get from our parents to be able to participate in that type of program. And so I just wanted to provide that to you as information, and and that we are working on some of the issues that were brought to light, and I want to put that out there respectfully. And I'll turn it back over to Dr. Herzog.
Okay, we will have an opportunity to discuss this as a board because I've received an indication that the resolution item for this will be pulled so that we can individually address that. So at that time, any board member who wishes to speak may do so. All right, so we thank our two individuals tonight who addressed the board on both agenda and non-agenda. And with that, we will move on to the consent agenda resolution. For the consent agenda, the board has been furnished with background material on each item or has discussed it at a previous meeting. These will be acted upon with one vote without discussion. If a board member wants to discuss any item, it will be pulled out of the consent agenda and will be voted on separately. I have heard from a couple of people regarding pulling items, so we will take off 7B and 8, which is the calendar, and 10. Are there any other ones, which is summer school? Are there any other ones that anyone wish to take off? All right, so with that, on to the consent agenda, if I can find my papers here. There we go. Okay, the board will consider approval of 1, minutes of the March 20th, 2019 special board meeting. 2, minutes of the March 20th, 2019 regular board meeting. 3, minutes of March 20th, 2019 executive session, regular board meeting. 4, minutes of April 10th, 2019 regular board meeting. Number 5, minutes of April 10th, 2019 executive session, regular board meeting. Number 6, bills payable. Number 7, personnel. A, appointments, resignations, and salaries. Number 9, 2019-2020 instructional material fee schedule. Number 11, Alps Charter School agreement renewal. Number 12, selection of vendors for supply and installation services of the classroom technology project. Number 13, selection of the vendor for the high school Chromebook project. And 14, Davis 4K model change contract.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Audrey.
Aye.
Szilagyi, aye. Carlin.
Aye.
Carlin, aye. Evans.
Aye.
Evans, aye. Garner.
Aye.
Garner, aye. Herzog.
Aye.
Herzog, aye. Olmsted.
Aye.
Olmsted, aye. Peschel.
Aye.
Peschel, aye. Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Resolution 7B. Be it resolved that the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education approve the retirements as filed with the Secretary to the Board of Education.
So moved.
Second.
Once again, I'd ask that this be pulled because we have 3 people who will be leaving the district and taking a lot of institutional memory with them, and we want to take the opportunity to thank them for their service to the students, the families, and our community. Lisa Albrecht is currently an ID teacher assistant at Carl Traeger Middle and has been employed with the district since 2009. Kim Benzade is a media assistant at Reed Elementary School and has been with the district for roughly 20 years, coming here in 1999. And finally, Christine Rennebaum is an agriculture teacher at Oshkosh West High School and has been with the district since 2005. And we certainly wish them well and take this opportunity to thank them for everything that they have done for our students and for our families and community. Any other comments? Please call the roll.
Carlin.
Aye.
Carlin, aye. Evans.
Aye.
Evans, aye. Garner.
Aye.
Garner, aye. Herzog.
Aye.
Herzog, aye. Olmsted.
Aye.
Olmsted, aye. Peschel.
Aye.
Peschel, aye. Szilagyi.
Aye.
Szilagyi, aye. Motion carried.
Thank you very much. So moving on then to Resolution 8. Be it resolved that the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education approve the 2019-2020 calendar as filed with the Secretary to the Board of Education.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, and we will be discussing this at this time. So now is the opportunity for board members to share their thoughts. I know that Mrs. Salaji had some things to share.
Yes, I'm the one that asked to have it pulled, so I'll share my thoughts quickly. Last week when you presented it, I was in the back of the room, and I just had a couple comments I wanted to make, but I couldn't. So this week I can. So thanks for hearing me out on it. I wanted to add two things to the conversation. The first is that a year and a half ago, when I started building a campaign, I talked to teachers just to hear input. And I was surprised that every teacher at every grade level, at every school from whatever corner of the city said, we'd really like our school calendar to end the first week of June. So when I saw that, I thought, that's great, because I heard that from every teacher I ever talked to. So I'm a former teacher. I like pleasing teachers, you could say. So thank you for that. The second thing I wanted to discuss is the morning drop-off time for Oakwood and Lakeside. Last week, Jim mentioned that $47,000 is a lot of money for 5 minutes, and I agree. I don't think that's a financially responsible decision to make. But, I mean, Cammie's comments tonight, I also agree with those. 7:15 is a very early time to expect even 4-year-olds, because Oakwood has a 4K program in the morning, to show up at school.
They don't show up at that time, though. 4K is separate, they have a separate bus.
Even the morning one?
Yeah.
Because I knew the afternoon did.
Yeah,
it
the
picked up.
morning and
Okay.
so the morning pickup and the afternoon
Are the separate short
drop-off
bus?
are separate short bus.
My two oldest
Just wanted
were
you to
always
know.
just placed in the afternoon, so I don't know where my
Nope.
current 4-year-old will be placed this time around, so I was thinking of her. So thank you
Keep going.
for that. Thank you for that. I know that on paper it just looks like 5 minutes, but it's compounded on a couple years of time changes. So, as an example, the first year that my son, he's just 8, the first year that he rode the bus, he was picked up at 7:27, but because the changes, the next year were the stacking changes, and then the next year was the 20 minutes, that was 10 at the beginning and 10 at the end. So this next year, his pickup time, if it were 5 minutes early, would be 6:52, which is only 5 minutes on paper, but looking in just the 4 years he's been in school, it's really 7:27 to 6:52. Did I say 5:52? I apologize, 6:52. So I would no longer have my children ride the bus. I personally think that's unacceptable for my kids to show up even 15 minutes before their teachers show up. I am fortunate that I have that decision, that I live close actually to both the bus garage and the school. So I can just say, I'll drop them off, it's easy. Because I do think that it's more efficient for me to drop them off than for the district to pay $23,000 for an extra bus at that school. But I wanted to note that I think is a very early expectation for very young students.
Yep.
So, thanks for hearing me out on that.
Thank you, Mrs. Salaji. Is there anyone else who wanted to address that?
I do.
Mrs.
Oh, go ahead.
Mrs. Olmsted,
You rose your
or
hand.
Mrs.
You go.
Okay, I would just want to build on your idea that it's only $47,000. And I'm wondering if we were to decide, yes, we would like to help with this issue that Cammie's brought up so eloquently. Thank you for both your
Yes.
writing and then for advocating tonight. I want you to fight in court for me someday because you did a beautiful job. Could we get to an even better solution where it's not like
That's what I was
5
gonna say.
minutes is 50 grand? Could it be, no, we're going to,
Revamp all of it.
I don't know, all of
Well,
it, some
just
of
those-
it, tweaking
Some of
it.
those bigger areas, yeah.
Can we squeeze some value out of that? And I know I'm putting you on the spot because I didn't know. I was
Well,
gonna ask
and
this.
we had discussions with Copason, and they shared with us what they could do at that time. That would mean coming back to the table. I'm looking over at Sue. I don't know if
Okay.
you have had any other additional conversations.
If I may interject, please.
Mhm.
We did explore going back and rather than doing 11 minutes, what it would potentially have an impact if we were to look, I believe, at 7 minutes.
It was still an impact.
Unfortunately, the impact was the same.
It's
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't know that's what you were sharing. I was thinking you were, yes, anyway, thank you for clarifying.
So my concern is the schedule, the school calendar is great. I love it. I agree with you, Liz. I have had so many parents and teachers talk about that they want to be, and I, again, thank you, Cammie, for coming and you know, speaking. I agree with some and I disagree with some, but our calendar is very long. And we are literally in school so much longer than all my relatives or the districts around us. And that I have always, every single teacher, and I've been in this district, I have a 22-year-old son, every single teacher I've ever talked to since my kids have been little has been, why do we have to go so late? Why do we have to go so late? Why do we have to go so late? So that I'm appreciative that the calendar is earlier. So I agree that, I'm hoping that the majority is that we like the calendar. It's just the busing that's so early. So I don't know that the calendar's the problem, it's the busing that's the problem, is what I'm understanding, if I'm getting that. I've had people contact me and they like the calendar. They like everything built in. They like, and I've even had teachers say, I love extra time. We love extra minutes. We always want extra minutes in the day. You know, I've heard a lot of that. So I really think that the problem is busing, and my children went to Lakeside. This is my first year out of Lakeside in like 17 years. So I've been there, you know, with that busing. And it is such a huge, huge footprint Lakeside has. So that busing has always been a problem since my kids were there, of getting up so early. So I think that the problem is let's try to work on that busing and what can we do to try to get those kids there not so early. So I really don't think the problem, if I'm understanding, I don't think the problem is the calendar as much as it is just getting these kids at 6:25 in the morning on a bus when they don't start school for an hour. That's crazy. I agree. And, you know, so that's just my input.
May I address that for
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
So unfortunately, yes, tonight what is under consideration is the calendar.
Just the calendar, yeah.
But in order to implement the calendar, it does have that, it does go hand in hand a little bit related to the busing.
Right.
Hence why I found it important to provide you with an update to let you know that the busing conversation is not finale for Lakeside. Now, for the other two it is, but for Lakeside is something that we are still working on. I'm trying to get that 5 minutes back, and to be candid with you, I'm also trying to possibly even work on some of those pickup times on the front end too. What I was in researching this, what I found out is that some of the buses are getting there earlier, and the students are sitting on the buses. This was new information that was presented to me, and hence, as you know, it's my first year here in the district. There's a lot of things I'm learning. So this was something that was brought to my attention, and I have to research that. I have to explore that. I learned that information, officially today from the principal, and I had heard it, but then I really heard it from the principal today. And so I need to have that opportunity to have some discussions with the bus and really explore that. And because that may also be some potential opportunity to maybe look at revamping some of those pickup times maybe a little bit later. Again, I don't know which buses those are though. And I will not say, oh yeah, the earliest start time we're going to pick up later, because again, I don't know which buses are the ones that are getting there a little bit early.
Right.
So I'm in that research phase, problem solving phase. So I want to make that clear. But again, related to the calendar, we are talking about getting to the school 5 minutes earlier, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, pickup time would be 5 minutes earlier and drop off. I mean, for students
You're
to be
right.
picked
Pickup
up.
time is 5 minutes earlier. Drop off is 10 minutes earlier. My apologies.
Yes.
If I heard you right, Dr. Cartwright, I believe you just said that some of these buses are arriving earlier than their projected time.
Yes.
And therefore, the students are sitting on the buses until the projected time. I'm not sure what you call that. That would suggest to me that maybe they don't need to be picked up quite so early.
That was my point.
And
Exactly.
so, although I've never been blessed with my own children, I do empathize with small children having to get up so early. I see a little girl down the street who's just turned 4, and her mother drives an older brother to North and a middle schooler to Webster Stanley. And that little girl's often in her pajamas and carrying her binky with her when Mom takes these two to school. So I can I can empathize with that, even though I don't have children or even grandchildren of my own. I guess you can't have grandchildren without children.
Yeah, you can.
That was a misplaced
Somebody else's.
statement. But I'm sensing some interest here in looking at the pickup times and the drop-off times for Lakeside and Oakwood, so that the children wouldn't have to be picked up quite so early, nor would they arrive at school quite so early. And also the option perhaps, or exploring the option of providing breakfast to the children at Lakeside and Oakwood. When it was mentioned that the children might have to wait 4 to 5 hours before they eat lunch, I'm thinking, gosh, I wonder how many of us around this table would want to wait 4 to 5 hours from breakfast until lunch. Some of us probably do that, but that's a long stretch to wait. So that's all I want to say. Who's next?
I had a question
Yes.
about that. I just thought of, so would the survey tell parents that their kids will be dropped off at 7:15? Because I wonder if that might increase interest if you know your kids are.
We're going to keep it as
At school.
transparent as possible on
Okay.
that survey. So that is the absolute goal on that, because we want parents to make an informed
Yes.
decision on the results that they, on what they provide back to us.
Yeah.
So that's very important. And if I may, Dr. Herzog, to
Absolutely.
address some of the
Sure.
things, and I know Mr. Peschel is also trying to get in as well.
I'm sorry. We'll get
But
next.
I apologize, just in case you didn't see him.
I did.
To address some of your points, for what is considered, what I would propose for you tonight is to consider the worst-case scenario, which is what we have proposed to you for this evening, okay? What I'm saying is, please give me time to work on it on the back end. If I can adjust it, I can adjust it. I will do everything that I can. You have my word on that. But and even then, I wouldn't have to bring it back to the
Right.
board for approval, because it's not the calendar. However, just knowing that I will continue to work on that. If you're not satisfied with that, we have given you the alternative solution, which would be at the cost of 2 buses. Unfortunately, we do know, unfortunately, that those really kind of are our only 2 options that we have available in addressing that start time, because we do have the double stacking on the routes that are occurring. My apologies. Dr.
No
Herzog.
problem. Thank you, Dr. Cartwright. Mr. Peschel, and thank you for your patience.
Yeah, no problem. So now I guess I just want to make sure that I'm understanding correctly what we're deciding today. So, the pickup times for kids at Lakeside, Franklin, and Oakwood are not necessarily part of the decision to accept the calendar.
Right.
But by accepting the calendar,
That's their
we're giving you the go-ahead to go with that if we really, if it doesn't work out, that we're giving the direction that you can go with that plan.
Or paying for the other 2 buses.
Correct.
Or paying, sure. I'm uncomfortable making a decision wholly on the calendar with this premise, on that premise, because I think I like the calendar a lot, like everyone else does around the table, but I'm really unsure that we should make a decision that automatically puts this into play. That I don't know. That just doesn't make me feel right. Like that's the best way to make our decision on this. So, my real gut tells me, and I'm not making a motion at this moment, is that we should table this until you've figured out those elements of that. And my question why I'm not making a motion is because I don't have an answer to something. Do we have to make a decision on this calendar tonight?
I'm just going to say, Julie and I have received many, many emails and phone calls regarding when is spring break. This is what people are doing. They're planning vacations for next year.
Yep.
And I would say that's the critical piece they absolutely want to know for next year.
Sure, but statutorily, do we have to, when do we have to make a decision on this?
What's our deadline?
So, okay.
It's your
Correct.
deadline.
Correct.
However, though, being good community partners, right now we're holding up the calendar, and community members, community-based organizations, everybody plan. It's almost like we're one of the hubs of the community,
Sure.
and they're planning around that. And this is the latest that we've approved a calendar in a very long time.
Okay. Well, I guess my real concern about this is that we are making a decision that affects some of the youngest kids in our district. So, and I'd much rather I'd be much more comfortable making this decision on the calendar if I knew that we had figured out that component.
Dr. Cartwright.
If I may provide some clarification, and staff correct me if I'm incorrect.
Okay.
At Franklin Elementary School, a majority of the students that go to that school are not
Sure.
bus
Yeah.
riders.
Correct. And
Yes.
So
Correct.
I want to make that point. At Lakeside, we do know that they are. And at Oakwood, we get a fair mixture of both that is occurring.
Sure.
In other words, parents still a fair amount of parents drop off. We're not adjusting the drop-off time for parents, so that's not on
Sure.
the table. The reason what I'm trying to say, to connect things a little bit from your comments, is with this calendar, in order to make this calendar work, we only have two options that really will make it work. And it's either saying that for the 3 schools, we have to have a 5-minute earlier pickup, or we have to pay for 2 additional buses. I wish I had other options that I could provide to you, trust me, I really wish I did. But staff has been working on this a lot. The only thing that I'm putting out there, and I brought it to your attention tonight, not to muddy the water, but to let you know that even though once whatever decision you make, we're still going to continue to work on this to try to figure some things out, specifically to Lakeside. And again, I apologize if I muddied the water, because that was not my intent. My intent was truly just to provide you with some supplemental information that was recently determined, and to let you know that we're continuing to work on it. But again, I do not want to make that promise, because that's not right, and I'm not going to make a promise that I cannot keep. But the promise I will make is I will continue to work on it and try to make this work better. But I can't guarantee that it will result in changes to what's proposed as far as those start times are concerned. If you go that route, if you choose to go with the buses, then you can go with the buses, and knowing that the start times remain as they are right now.
So, and it sounds like you may not have a definite number on this, but do you have some type of number of students that this could potentially affect at Oakwood or Lakeside?
We can get that information to you. I don't
Okay.
have that information.
It'd be about 300 to 400 kids, right?
But I mean,
What's the
even if
enrollment
it's
for the
10,
3 schools,
or if
please?
it's 100, does that make a difference?
What is it?
Well,
Lakeside's 160, 170,
Oakwood
and
has
Oakwood's
460, and all of,
460?
yeah.
That's high.
Maybe I'm wrong about Lakeside then.
No,
All of them are eligible for the bus. It's true that not all of them
Sure.
ride the bus.
So
but-
maybe we're talking 500 kids or so, something like that, if we just estimate it.
Yeah.
So how does that help your?
no, I'm just wondering.
Okay.
And
So-
I didn't mean to make it a difficult decision. Like I said, for me personally, I think, given the 2 choices, I would rather the pickup time or the drop-off time be 7:15. I just won't let my kids be dropped off
Right,
at
but
that
you
time.
have that option.
I know, and so it's hard for me. I asked, because I didn't know how I could talk to other board members about this before the meeting. I asked a few people.
You can't.
Yes, exactly. That's why I
You talk
didn't.
to one person.
Yeah.
So I just said, can I vote for something that I don't want to impact my kids, to impact other people's kids?
You can vote to have the buses.
Yeah.
But, gosh.
I mean, if all the choices were easy, don't
I've been coming for a year and a half, and I felt like I could have.
It's different when you're out there like, oh, I would do this, and then
My
you're up and
first
you're like.
one.
Yeah.
So personal.
I want to
They
go
all
at this a
are.
little different way. The original reason for this is to add on time for inclement weather. And I wish I could believe that this past winter was an anomaly, but I don't believe it is. I think it's going to get worse. I think we're going to have more extreme storms. I think one of our jobs as school board members is look 10 to 20 years down the road, and I think in 10 to 20 years, 6.82 days is not going to be enough for snow days.
Right.
We're going to have to do more.
Right.
I'm thinking 10 snow days probably in the future. And,
And we need digital learning.
Anyways.
Mr. Evans, you might be correct. I don't remember the specific details, but I do recall seeing some data related to global warming, or whatever the correct term is, climate change, and that we've had some of our warmest, as a planet, we've had some of our warmest summers on record in the last 4 to 10 years. And we've seen some extremes in terms of storms and the kinds of storms. Seems like there are more ice storms, which was kind of a rarity in this part of the country. That used to be more to the south, like in Illinois, but it seems to be creeping up. So none of us has a crystal ball on this. I mean, if it comes down to we really need to add 2 more buses at a cost of roughly $47,000, then we have to look at the opportunity cost of that. What does it mean then that we can't do, or we need to find that money somewhere in the budget? So there are so many variables here in terms of the state budget, which some of the lawmakers have guesstimated might be passed in June or might be passed sometime in infinity. So that opens up a lot of room for us, and we have to have a budget passed by the month of October. So if we were to spend roughly $47,000 on 2 buses, then that would mean we have to find that somewhere else in the budget, all things being equal. We don't know what that budget's going to look like. Perhaps there will be some additional funding coming from the state or not. We don't know that. But I am concerned about these early pickup times at the homes for some of these children. And I would be comfortable voting on the calendar with the understanding that administration works on the how. We define the what as a board, and the how, the detail, including the pickup times to get students in these particular schools to the schools on time. Administration would keep us informed about the progress on these various options that Dr. Cartwright has outlined, including perhaps changing the way students are dropped off at Lakeside,
Get off the bus.
Thank you, get off the buses rather than one at a time. Maybe there's another way to keep them safe, but to expedite that time frame. So I'm comfortable allowing administration that kind of leeway and keeping us informed, and if it comes back that we really do need to add those 2 buses, then I think we're going to have to do that. Mr. Peschel.
Sure. I will follow that premise on, but I want to express that I would be in support of adding extra bus because it's our responsibility to get our kids to school. It's our responsibility to make sure that getting them to school safely, in a healthy, in a safe, and a warm manner. And I think it's also our responsibility to make sure that we can help families manage that time of when their kids are in flux of going from home to school. And so I do think that the $47,000 is not something that we really want to spend, but I believe that it's a responsible thing to do in order to get our kids to school. So I think it's important that you hear at least from one board member that that board member is very comfortable with you exploring that option. So.
Mrs. Olson?
I agree with Bob. I think this directly impacts children. I think it's the spending extra money on these buses, after listening and thinking, more about it, it is for the health of the students. They'll be better learners, they have more time at home, they can eat breakfast, they can, being on the bus that early in the morning, like Cammie said, in the dark and waiting that long. Any of us that have had kids out there, we did it. And it's very difficult. So I think that spending that money on 2 additional buses or And I don't want to stop there. I just want to put that out there too. I don't want to just stop at those just 2 additional buses so that it's the 5 minutes. This seems to be an endless discussion that has been around for years. I mean, years we've been discussing Lakeside's busing. And I mean, it's just, so under my premonition, I agree with the calendar. I love the calendar. But I agree with the 2 extra buses with the premonition that we are going to keep, we're going to look at the bigger picture of how these kids get to school and what time, because it's a cycled and recycled problem that just keeps coming year after year after year. And I think it directly helps the kids learn. I think it's a direct way we can help these kids.
I think Mr. Peschel was next, and then Mrs.
Well, I was just going to say, may I suggest, please, that we have this conversation when we are actually voting on busing, because we are not voting on busing tonight.
Right.
And so
Yep.
I think this is a conversation that should occur when we're actually voting on the busing and
Yep.
looking at that situation.
Correct. Tonight, we're just voting on the calendar as
Right.
presented. Mr. Peschel.
Though it's a valid conversation to have
Oh, yes.
within that.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I wanna thank you for bringing up that this is an issue. I think the thing that I took the most from it is that it's parity. I have the ability to wake up my kids much later than kids that get bussed in. I have to drive, and yes, I drive my kids 5 minutes away to their school and drop them off. But the reality is that that's not the case throughout the district, and I think that's really important for us to kind of take that into thought when we're discussing these ideas of how this works out. Because it's really easy for me to sit here and say it's not an issue, but by doing that, I'm discounting several hundred students in our district that have that struggle. And it's very easy for me to put my kids to sleep knowing that they're going to get an extra half an hour of sleep, hour in some cases, than other kids in our district. And I think it's a really important discussion for us to have here, is that I hadn't thought about it from the idea of how much sleep do kids get, and how much sleep do I know that my kids need in order to do this. And so there's several levels to this decision here that I'm really happy came into the conversation. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peschel. Is there anyone else who wanted to weigh in on this topic of the calendar?
I'd like to call for a vote.
All right, you're calling the question.
Calling the question, needs to be second, I'll second.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
On the question? Or on the
calendar.
On the resolution.
The resolution.
Yeah.
Evans?
Aye.
Evans, aye. Garner?
Aye.
Garner, aye. Herzog?
Aye.
Herzog, aye. Olmsted?
Aye.
Olmsted, aye. Peschel?
Aye.
Peschel, aye. Szilagyi?
Aye.
Szilagyi, aye. Carlin?
Aye.
Carlin, aye. Motion carried.
All right, thank you all for your participation and bringing this forward tonight. And Dr. Cartwright, do you believe you have enough direction from the board moving forward at this point?
Yes, I will continue at this point in time to explore those options that I've outlined for you this evening. I'll provide you with an update as to I'll provide you ongoing updates as to what information I'm receiving as a result of that. And obviously, it's going to be a two-pronged conversation. One is going to be specifically related to finalizing conversations with Copason and seeing if there's any way that we can come to resolution on that, as well as try to see if there's any way we can start, if buses are getting early, backing up those pickups times a little bit later for them. And again, not knowing who those students are that would be impacted, but it's impacting some students. And then number two, going in and doing the survey with the breakfast, I think is still a critical piece of that. Once I have the answer to the first one, then we'll be able to conduct the survey, but I don't want to put the survey out until I know for sure what the impact would be potential to the drop-off.
Right.
And then I'll be able to provide that information back to you in the form of updates.
Now, if we were to have the possibility of adding a breakfast at the schools, is there grants that cover portions of that?
So ideally what we have, from my understanding, is, I don't want to throw out the exact number of what the minimum is. I heard that through a principal, so I have not had an opportunity to validate that number just yet. But one of the things, what you want to do is, what we're looking for is to have enough families that would at least pay for the basic needs to run a breakfast program. We have to have that balance. There aren't grants. That is basically the parents are paying for breakfast. However, we do know that there is a potential of some students qualifying for free and reduced lunch, for which we would be subsidized on those meals.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Moving on to resolution number 10. Be it resolved that the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education approve the 2019 summer school and extended school year for students with disabilities staffing plan as filed with the Secretary to the Board of Education.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. I had asked that this one be pulled to clarify a budget question. And for those people who had seen the original proposal, or staff report rather, I just wanted to make sure that we clarified that this revised plan shows a budget income, impact, which shows a surplus of revenues over expenditures. So, I don't know, either of you want to comment on that?
I can explain that. So when a year ago, we talked about increasing the pay of summer school teachers to $30 an hour because our goal was to get 100% of our Oshkosh Area School District staff staffing summer school. And so we almost got there with around 95% of our staff last year was OASD, which we knew and we had anticipated and talked with you about that increasing cost. What we didn't anticipate at that time was when we predict these numbers, we use the actual enrollment numbers from the year before to help us predict it going forward. So we knew our costs were going to go up with increasing the pay for staff. But what we hadn't predicted is, if you remember, we had a split. Traeger had to move over to Tipler and Shapiro and was split. And so our enrollments that we would typically get at Traeger for summer school went down. And so we did not anticipate that. So when we put in the enrollment figure for 18-19, we were basing that off of how we projected it forward. So what we did here was to give you a little bit better piece of that, because right now we're up 75 anticipated enrollments. That's not the final count. That's not what we can't guarantee that number, but we're up with that. And so we used that projected number to calculate the budget rather than the number that we had last year. And if you recall from the board workshop where Mrs. Bailey, the elementary summer school principal, was with us, she had said she was anticipating up in enrollment, and we do have that. Where we're also down with staffing, because as I've worked with the two summer school principals, Mr. Dunn and Mrs. Bailey, they have been directed that we need to be safe but very tight on our staffing to make sure that we're coming in budget neutral.
Thank you. I really appreciate that clarification. Does anyone else have any comments or questions on the summer school and extended year staffing as proposed? All right then, please call the roll.
Garner?
Aye.
Garner, aye. Herzog?
Aye.
Herzog, aye. Olmsted?
Aye.
Olmsted, aye. Peschel?
Aye.
Peschel, aye. Szilagyi?
Aye.
Szilagyi, aye. Carlin?
Aye.
Carlin, aye. Evans?
Aye.
Evans, aye. Motion carried.
Thank you very much. And thank you, ladies. Moving on then to individually considered resolutions. I don't believe we have any for this evening. Are there requests for future agenda items? Okay, seeing none, then we'll move on to announcements. Are there any announcements at this time? Mr. Peschel, I think you were looking to have an announcement regarding the Employees of the Year.
Oh, yes. Thank you. I was like,
I was.
what did I say and forget?
I was listening.
So typically in the past, when we've recognized the Employees of the Year, we've also indicated that there's a wall in this office, in this room, where we put up their images, and their images stay up on this wall for the year until the district or administrators choose the next year's employees of the years. And so I just wanted to make sure that that those teachers knew that they're here with us all year round, even though they may not be physically in the room with us. So.
Thank you very much. That's important to know, because they serve as role models then throughout the year for anyone who is in this room, so that's important. So I appreciate your alertness to that. Are there any other announcements? All right then, just a reminder to the board that we will be back here tomorrow night at 6 o'clock for an open meeting for our continued conversation on the key work of school boards until 8 p.m. So it'll be good to see everyone back around the table tomorrow night. All right. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Herzog?
Yes. Aye.
Herzog, aye. Olmsted?
Aye.
Olmsted, aye. Peschel?
Aye.
Peschel, aye. Salaji?
Aye.
Salaji, aye. Garland? Aye. Garland, aye. Evans?
Aye.
Evans, aye. Garner?
Aye.
Garner, aye. Motion carried.
So this is second.
Meeting adjourned.
Yeah,
Thank you
right?
all.